Alrighty guys, so let's go back to middle school and let's remember what your teachers told you to memorize over and over. They've told you that if we have these three angles, let's call them A, B, and C. Now we're going to call them different letters because let's pretend they all measure different amounts. If we were to add angle A, angle B, and angle C, if we were to add all three angles of a triangle, they told you to memorize that it should be, if you guessed 180, you are correct. You were told to memorize they're supposed to add to 180 degrees. Well, I don't know if you guys ever asked this, but has anybody ever asked why that's the case? Remember guys, I always ask teachers because what's the point of memorizing something if you don't know why? Why are you memorizing something? So let's pretend, let's say we have these two parallel lines. We're going to say letter L and letter M are parallel. How do we know they're parallel? Sometimes they like to use the symbol two dash lines to show parallel lines. So let's pretend these are parallel. And let's call this angle letter B. How about that? Make this smaller. Let's call this angle letter B. Now, if you remember anything about a straight line, you know a straight line adds up to how many degrees? A straight line, let me just write it over here. A straight line is actually 180. So if I were to call this angle A, angle B, and angle C, then you would know that A plus B plus C equals 180. Okay, now I think you're starting to get the hint of this. Well, with that in mind, guys, let's think of something else. We have what I told you as parallel lines. These are lines that never touch. If you remember our previous video I did, you know that parallel lines, if they're cut by a transversal or just a random line, you know that angle C would be congruent. That's another fancy word for saying equal. It will be equal to this angle right here. This angle right here. How are they supposed to be congruent? Because we've talked about the alternate interior angles. So we talked about when you have two angles in parallel lines that are inside the parallel lines and they're alternate, as in on opposite sides, they're the same. Same thing with the letter A. If we have letter A, let's call it a different amount. And now we're talking about this line that's cutting the parallel lines. Well, the one that's opposite inside will be this one. We can call it A as well. And we can call this one C. So letter A's are congruent because of the same theory. Alternate interior angles. We're just focusing on the different line that's cutting the same parallel lines. Well, guys, if we already discussed that this angle and this angle are the same, and if we already agreed that this angle and this angle is the same, isn't all of this, let me show you with this rainbow color, isn't all of this a triangle? So isn't A plus B plus C equal to 180? All of this should be equal to 180 degrees. And you just proved why a triangle has to be 180 degrees when you add all three angles.